Well, we did invite the intelligence services and the ministers who oversee them to talk to us. They weren't available. But just before we came on air, I spoke to Fred Fleitz in the United States. He spent almost 2 decades working for the CIA and Defense Intelligence Agency. He's now Washington Center for Security Policy, and I asked Mr. Fleitz whether the NSA should be able to provide GCHQ with information gathered from UK phones without paying heed to provisions that legally protect UK citizens.
We don't know the context of this program or if it's really true. These programs are well overseen in the UK and in the United States. We also know that a lot of the things Snowden has said has been inaccurate or has been exaggerated.
Well, we didn't even know that this system called Dishfire even existed. I went to see Vodafone today, the second biggest telephony company in the world. They had no idea it existed. They're absolutely livid because it blows a hole in all their privacy and security operations and their relationships with the British government. They themselves are now having to go and see senior British security ministers to try and square the circle.
But see, whose privacy is being penetrated here and what information is being collected? In the United States, most members of the U.S. Congress recognize that if an American citizen is on the phone with an al-Qaeda suspect in Pakistan, it's acceptable for the National Security Agency to monitor that phone call in some way. I think most British citizens would agree. We don't know what this program is, how much data was being used, and under what circumstances it was being used. I believe it was probably targeting terrorists, and this is simply another example of Greenwald and Snowden trying to drum up the media against electronic surveillance.
Let me ask you a final question then. As an American citizen, do you mind the intelligence services having access to absolutely every piece of data, be it your bank account, be it your love life, whatever else it is? Do you have the slightest worry that they have access to all this stuff?
It does not concern me that there is a carefully controlled program to use data that in the United States, metadata, for example, telephone records, this is not covered under the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. This is publicly available data that the government can look at. We know that al-Qaeda suspects in nations that mean the UK and the US harm are becoming increasingly tech-savvy. We need sophisticated and advanced intelligence methods to protect our citizens. And no, it does not concern me. I know my government is not spying on me.
Frederick Fleitz, thank you very much indeed for talking to us. Well, now let's go live to Washington to hear from our reporter Inigo Gilmore. Inigo, President Obama actually addresses the whole question of national security and the Snowden disclosures tomorrow. What are we expecting?
Well, we are expected for the first time to see some kind of curbs, some kind of limits put on the powers of the National Security Agency, and the first curbs put on them since 9/11. Now, of course, since that time, the powers of the NSA have massively expanded, so that they've been accused of encroaching on people's lives, not only in America, but also across the world, including the kind of revelations that we've seen today, again, about the NSA cooperating with GCHQ. Now, of course, President Obama, since these Snowden revelations, has been under huge pressure to try and balance the needs for security and the need for people's privacy and civil liberties. So in December, he appointed a panel. The panel has come forward with 46 recommendations of how to change these activities. And now, of course, crucially, President Obama doesn't have to go ahead with those recommendations, and we'll wait to see what happens tomorrow. But also, crucially for him, he can't be seen to be handing a victory to Edward Snowden.
Now, is this all talk, or really might there be some serious limitations on what the spy agencies can actually get up to?
Well, one of the first things we are expected, and one of the most important things that is expected to happen, we're expecting some kind of presidential oversight when it comes to spying on foreign leaders. You will recall that one of the big rows that emerged since these revelations began, the Snowden revelations, was the fact that the Americans were spying on Angela Merkel, Chancellor Angela Merkel of Germany, and listening in on her phone. President Obama said he was very disturbed to hear by that. He said he wasn't aware of that. So it's expected he will rein in the NSA on this issue, and this will have to go through a presidential decree for this kind of thing to happen. It's also expected when it comes to mining the metadata of Americans, there will be more oversight over that, and these kind of activities will have to go through Congress and through the law courts. But when it comes to spying, the broad thrust of the activities of the NSA of spying on foreign citizens, it's expected that program will largely continue under President Obama.
Inigo Gilmore in Washington.